Hey everyone, this is Lisa from Life in Layouts, and welcome back to day number 12 of March Madness. Today's page map sketch comes from June of 2013. I pulled out this newer collection from Simple Stories called Cornhole to document some photos of us playing cornhole at one of the Disney resorts. When Simple Stories first released this collection, I was super excited because I haven't seen anything that is cornhole specific before. But once I got the collection, it is kind of lacking. It's again one of those mini collections and it doesn't have a lot of B-side paper to it. So I did decide to pull out two colored cardstocks. The background cardstock is like a teal color and it has polka dots on it. I picked it up from Joann's and they have several colors and I think I have it in every color. I'm definitely going to have to make a trip over there before they close to see if I can get any more of the paper. When I cut down this red paper, it is that white core paper and it didn't cut very well. So I decided that I would just distress the edges of three sides so that it would cover up the mistakes that my trimmer made. I absolutely need to clean my trimmer. I have cut out things that have adhesive on them, and so now it makes it very difficult to cut things out. Of course, I had to get all of the paper shavings off of my table once I used that distress tool. Because I know that Joann's is closing and I need to save as much paper as I can, plus the fact that there are not a lot of B-side papers in this collection, I did go ahead and decide to gut the center of this paper. I just pulled out my pencil and measured where the red paper was going to fall so that I could make sure that I cut it properly. I'm then going to adhere this red paper down to the background paper. Now, taking a look at the sketch, I'm never good at just putting a very thin border. The sketch definitely calls for maybe 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch, but I went with more of like 1 inch. And I'm okay with that because I definitely wanted more of this polka dot to show. Once I got the red paper down, I did use some washi tape on the back of it just to make sure that it stayed in place. And then I did use my finger to rough up the edges to really make that distress edge show. I then decided to use the piece that I had cut out from the other sheet to make some pencil marks around the paper so that I could cut it properly. If you guys follow my channel, you know that I don't always do this correctly. There's been several times where I have had to piece back some papers because I cut out the wrong side. But I was lucky. This time I did not have any issues. And I need to pat myself on the back because that doesn't happen very often. So then I went ahead and got the red paper down on the other side of the layout and added some washi tape to the back of that as well. And then of course, roughing up the edges of that red paper as well. I then pulled out this paper here that has all of the bean bags on it, which is probably my favorite paper. My second favorite paper is, of course, on the back of this one. It is this yellow paper that has all kinds of cornhole words on it. So I am going to be using both sides of this paper. I'm going to use the word paper as the larger piece, and then I'm going to cut out the beanbag paper to go at the top of the layout. I did cut the yellow paper to 8 inches and the beanbag paper to 1.5 inches. And then once I laid the paper down on the background, I decided how wide I wanted the paper, and I made the paper 10 inches. Using the page map sketches this month, I have really come to love Scrapbook Generation sketches with their measurements because I've had to do a lot of math and I just don't want to do that when I am in here creating. I just want to be given the instructions and make it very easy to follow along. Once I got the paper down, I decided to go ahead and cut out my photos. I am going to use a 4x4 flip flap for a couple of the photos. Of course, I was the one taking the photos, so there's only one picture of me. I'm so glad that my friend Jarvis was able to take at least one picture of me so that I am in the layout. But I did get a bunch of pictures of the kids and then obviously one picture of Jarvis. And then I did pull out the 4x6 card that has the cornhole boards on it. I really like that, and I'm going to add my title to that board. Over on the far right hand side, I added a 3x4 card that says why I lost, and it gives a percentage of things like my teammate, the bags, the boards, the wind, and it's only 1% me. I started looking through the 4x4 card trying to decide which one I wanted on the layout as well as which ones I wanted in the flip flaps. And then I'm going to start to adhere everything down. Like I said, these photos are us playing cornhole at Art of Animation. This was a couple of days after Hurricane Milton made landfall back in 2024. My friend Christina and her 3 kids were staying with me because they had lost power and it was pretty bad over where she lives. On this particular day, we were absolutely over the kids being in the house and we needed to get them out so that they can burn off some of the energy that they had from being cooped up. There wasn't a whole lot of places that we could go because a hurricane had just made landfall. But I knew that Disney was always great about a place that you could go and visit and get some energy out. You can absolutely resort hop in any of the resorts that are on Disney property. Obviously, Christina and her children don't have Disney passes, so we couldn't just go over to the parks and enjoy the parks there. But we could go over to the resorts. Art of Animation is one of the best resorts to go and check out all the different things that they have there. They have giant statues and it's just a lot of fun. They also have playgrounds that the kids can play on. So it was just a way to get out of the house without necessarily spending a lot of money on an activity for several kids. Christina's ex-husband, Jarvis, also went with us because he also lives over in the same area as Christina and he needed to get out as well. So it was just a nice time for him to spend time with his kids and hang out with all of us. And I went to high school with both Christina and Jarvis, so even though they are no longer together, we still all get along. I did decide to use my dies to cut out the word Disney and the red paper that's on the background. And I'm going to put all of this together and I hate it. Because this red paper has that white core, it wasn't looking really good. It looked like it was just not done well. So I'm going to put it on my layout. I thought my title was going to be Cornhole at Disney, and I was going to use the title from the page set. I thought about adding it directly to the card. I thought about adding it over on the far right. It was a little large, so then I went to the sticker sheet thinking maybe it would be a little bit smaller and I can add that. But at the end, the real issue had to do with the fact that I did not like that word Disney. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take up the red and add a different color pattern paper. On the back of the cut-aparts is this really pretty blue color, and I thought, you know what, that might work. Maybe if I add the blue, it will look a lot better. So I found a card that I knew I wasn't going to use, which is one of the cornhole boards, and I cut out the word Disney. Now, I definitely like the blue better than I did the red. I did decide to ink up the edges of it just to kind of hide the white areas. But once I got it back down on the layout, I still wasn't liking it. I think it was because it wasn't in the Disney font. I don't have Disney dies, so I decided to pull out my silhouette and cut out the word Disney from there. And then using Nicole's Dicker technique, I cut it out twice in the white and then I cut it out a third time in the blue pattern paper. And almost immediately knew that that's what the issue was. The word Disney can only be written in one specific font. And I knew that that was part of it. So I go ahead and adhere all of my letters together so that I can add my title to my layout. Let me know in the comments below, do you guys have a specific word or saying that can only be done in one specific font, like this word Disney? Or does it not matter to you? It doesn't matter what the font is if it's a specific word. Once I got all the pieces adhered together, I go ahead and add the word Disney directly to that 4x6 card, as well as this @ symbol that I cut out. I then pulled out this small sticker that says, "Meet you at the boards." So my title is going to be "Meet you at the boards at Disney." And I laid that sticker right above the @ symbol. I then pulled out the sticker sheet and I'm going to add some stickers around the layout as well. I first start out with a couple of the star clusters. I'm really trying to build up that 4x6 card to make it look like a really good title card. I then decide that I'm going to add a cluster down at the bottom left. I start out with the pail of bags and I do put that up on fun foam. I then pull out this teal bag, which I do cut it in half, and I decide to put it behind the pail of bags. It kind of looks like that bag may have fallen out. I'm then going to add this tag right next to it, and I'm going to build that cluster up from there. There weren't a lot of embellishments in this collection, really just the sticker sheet, and then if you did pick up the page pieces. I really wish that Simple Stories would come out with more embellishments for this or make this a larger kit. I think they did a great job with a bunch of the different sports collections that they came out with. Of course, they came out with your standards of soccer and football, but then they threw in the pickleball and the cornhole and the golf, which those are not always easy to find. Over on the far right hand side, I did start to build up that cluster as well. I added one of the bean bags that looks like it's being thrown, as well as the other half of that bean bag from the bottom left cluster. And then I added a word phrase that says, "The hole is my goal," which I just find hilarious. Down in the bottom cluster, I added a word phrase that says cornholin. And then I also added a star cluster. I was going to add it directly to the layout, but then decided that I was going to pop it up with some foam adhesive. I then went off camera and started to look through my Disney supplies because I definitely wanted to add some Disney flair to this layout. I have this book here that I picked up from one of our Amazon bin stores. If you haven't been to an Amazon bin store, it is a pretty awesome place. They have returns that people have sent in, and then the store buys them in these big pallets and then sells them individually. It's definitely one of those things that you have to treasure hunt for, but sometimes you find some really cool stuff in there. I was able to pull out a Mickey head from there, and I added that to the left-hand side of the layout. And then I added another one of those bean bags that looks like it's being tossed. And so I have it both on the left and right-hand side, so it kind of looks like the bean bags are being tossed across the page. I also found a little flag that has the letter D, and it's in the yellow and red, which is very similar to the colors from this collection. I had this little star cluster that I tried to add to the top left, but it just didn't look right up there, so I didn't add it. Down at the bottom, I added a little flare that has a camera on it, as well as another little flag that says fun. I picked up these flares a couple months ago from Scrappy Happy Studio. They had a Disney bundle, and I really like these canvas flares. It gives it a different texture. So I pulled out the one that has the heart that is in the colors of Mickey. And then I decided to pull out some adhesive brads from Simple Stories from their Say Cheese collection and added an adhesive brad to each one of the clusters. And then I did find a home for that little starburst right under the word Disney in my title. And then over on the far right hand side, I added another Mickey head because, you know, you can't have too many Mickey heads on a Disney layout. I then pulled out the ephemera pack from another Say Cheese collection. I have a couple of these Say Cheese collections that I need to get in my embellishment books, but I did pull out a couple things that I thought would work for this layout. I found this like little arrow that looks like it's like a squiggle line arrow, and I thought that was perfect for cornhole since we don't ever have our bean bags go straight. They always go crazy, which is okay. We just have fun with it. I also recently learned that we don't play cornhole by the rules. We were on a cruise with the family and watching other people play. I was like, that's not how we play. So I looked up the rules and I was like, yeah, we're definitely not playing it the right way. But again, that's okay. I pulled out my Simple Stories enamel dots that I had recently picked up from a Peachy Cheap deal and added a couple in each one of the clusters. These particular enamel dots are from the Pack Your Bag collection. And I struggled with a couple of them. They didn't have adhesive on the back of them, so I did have to use my liquid adhesive. And then I was just going to show you that I am going to be adding that flip flap to the layout there. So that's going to give me a total of 5 photos on this layout. All right, that is it for this video. Here is my final layout as well as some close-ups. I did do my journaling offline, and it says, 4 days after Hurricane Milton made landfall, Christina was still without power, and we needed to find a way to entertain the kids. My first thought was a trip to a Disney resort. We ultimately decided on the art of animation, where we had a wonderful time playing cornhole. It was the perfect opportunity to release some of that pent-up energy. All right, if you enjoyed this video, if you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. If you haven't done so already and you want to see more double page layout inspiration, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thanks everyone for watching, and I hope that you have a scrappy day.